Sugarloaf's a limestone formation at just about 80 feet into the air. Legend has it that in the beginning, Sugarloaf was actually the Great Spirit's wigwam. It only turned to stone after he left. Now they'll tell you it's sacred, not only the island, but that stone. Because they say when the Great Spirit left this island, he left his face in the rock. Now you might think it took an enormous imagination to see the face of a Great Spirit in an 80-foot stone, but I got a postcard here in Sugarloaf. Take a look at that and tell me how much imagination it takes you to see a face, a headdress, maybe some tassels. Take a look, pass it around. I think you'll agree with the native on that one. Not uncommon to have Native Americans come to the island. They'll rent private carriages. They'll have those carriages take them out to Sugarloaf, or they'll put tobacco at the base of the stone, traditional native gift. Right now, Sugarloaf houses our island's bat population. We have 30,000 to 40,000 brown bats on the island. That's where they make their home. Now these, you've seen some white trillium. This one right here, bushes that look like that are your northern elderberry. You may have seen some white trilliums. You may have seen some pink or purplish trilliums. Those are simply the white trilliums dying out. And then you'll have these little ones with leaves across from each other with those tiny little white flowers on top. That's your Solomon's seal. Brief history, 1634, Nicolay was the first white man to step foot on the island. 1654, found some French and Canadian voyagers in the area. This area was all claimed by France back then. In fact, it was called New France. New France is divided into 5 provinces, with the province of Mackinac, the one we're in, being the largest, and they did name Mackinac Island the capital. Pretty busy back then. We're a distribution center to many of the outposts in the upper Midwest, and we had that fur trade going for us. That furs ran out in 1834. There were no more furs. Now the island turned to fishing. We actually had coopers coming into town, the barrel builders. They were building barrels like there's no tomorrow. They'd pack fish into those barrels. That fish would be sent south, points like Chicago and Detroit. At one time, the island was shipping out over 30,000 barrels of fish every year. Well, then the railroads came over to Mackinac City. That put an end to that. A lot faster, a lot cheaper to ship fish via the railroads. The fishing fleet moved off the island, moved over to Mackinac City, and that left us with the tourism as it is today. They say you can sum up the island's history with the 4 F's. You had fur, fish, fun, and fudge. Nice patch of forget-me-nots on your right there. Well, we're coming down to the island limestone quarries now. This is where the British soldiers got the limestone to build the fort, but they had a problem. This stone was so huge they couldn't budge it. Had to get it broke up somehow. They couldn't load their wagons. So what they did is they used the same technique as a stonemason of that day would use to break a rock in half. If he wanted a rock broken in half, he put it on a big fire, he got it good and hot, he poured water right across the center of it. That sudden temperature change caused that rock to crack and break in half. Now I've seen that done. I had a friend whose dad built stone houses. I watched him do it. Well, that's what they did in this depression right here on your right. Took all the trees off there. They scraped that topsoil right down to the bare rocks. They loaded them trees back up. They started huge fires. They burned day and night for about a week. Then they brought water up from Lake Huron. They poured over that hot stone. That caused it to fracture into smaller pieces. Now they could load their wagons. Wagons of which were pulled by oxen back then. They didn't have horses for that. They also built a limestone kiln, a big oven. I understand when you fire limestone at 1600 degrees, it'll break it down into a powder. That powder becomes a mortar mix. Another quarry on your left. Only one tree capable of burning that hot on the island, that would be the tamarack. Now, unlike other trees which are water-based, the tamarack's an oil-based conifer, and it will burn in excess of 1600 degrees. For that reason, not many of them left on the island. They used massive amounts of those on these quarry fires and the limestone kiln. Favorite wood of the homeowner to burn. As I said, it's oil-based. It was the favorite wood of the dock builder for pilings. It went pretty quick. Now, the problem is, the seed pod is contained in a waxy substance. There's no written history of a forest fire on this island. There's no evidence in the woods of a forest fire. So that tree really hasn't had any recent memory chances to reseed itself. They say there's less than a dozen of them today. I don't know who walks through the woods counting trees, but that's what they say. Coming down to our track. At our track, we're going to get off the carriage for 6 minutes, view the our track, use the facility. quantities. At the end of 6 minutes, I'll say Dave's carriage is loading, and we need to get back to the carriage so we can be on our way. They do time me. I am on a schedule. Probably got one more trip anyway today. So Dave's carriage is loading. We'll be on our way. See this set of steps? If you want to go up there now before you go to the arch rack, because you could get up there and not hear the boarding call, then we'll run into problems. It's called Nicolay's Watchtower. All you're going to find up there is a sign that says Nicolay may have stood there. I'm quite certain Nicolay had to stand down here before he got up there, so it's not worth it. If